They are now.
Quiet. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We'd like to call this meeting to order. Mayor Dickamore should be here shortly. He is at a school event with his grandkids. Asked if I would start the meeting, and so we'll start. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance, and it will be led by Ken, and an opening prayer by Josh.
Okay. Please repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity to gather here this night and to be able to come together as a city and as friends and families that live here, and to be able to join together and discuss the matters that are important to us at this time. We are grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy. We're grateful for the opportunities that we have to live in this wonderful land, and pray that we may be able to work together tonight and to be able to come to agreement on matters and to be able to have insight and direction that we need. We pray for those who are continuing to suffer and who are ill and stricken with this pandemic that is upon us, and pray for them, and pray that we may be able to find relief from it. We love thee, Father, and this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Josh. Is there any public comments? Anything not pertaining to the agenda tonight? Okay, if none, we'll have a report from the Planning Commission. Do we have anybody from the Planning Commission here? Of course we do. Lyle, would you just turn that microphone on? Thank you.
You'll have to forgive me for not standing. The other leg's home under the bed. We had the Planning Commission meeting on November 10th, this last Thursday, and we had a work session at 6 o'clock, and kind of a one-on-one or a 2-on-3 or whatever with the Wasatch Front Regional Council. They had a seminar or a work thing about, 3-4 weeks ago, Ken? And this is kind of an extension of that, and we was able to lay out maps and talk about our concerns with the roads and things like that, especially the big one over there on 2700 and how they want to go through all that property. Anyway, and we met with them, and then we had the Pledge of Allegiance as a prayer, report from the City Council, and then we opened a public hearing to consider the request of a conditional use permit for a construction business, C2 for Accent Painting, located 2900 North and 2000 West. We closed the public hearing and made a recommendation to the City Council, which you'll be acting on tonight. And there's also a second public hearing to consider a request of a rezone of the Papa George property located approximately 1600 West, 2350 North, from an A1 zone to an M1 zone. And we didn't, and then we closed the public hearing. But during the public hearing, there was some valid concerns from the residents that live on Far West Drive regarding buffers and noise, because that's a manufacturing area where the property is proposed by John Watson. And so we tabled that. There was no recommendation. We tabled it so we can review and maybe revise and adjust the M1 ordinance in order to accommodate, because, for buffers and things like that, for noise and light and so forth from the residents. And then we opened a third public hearing to consider amending setbacks on accessory structures. And that was run by Lou Best. And then we closed the public hearing and then we recommended the City Council for that, which you'll be acting on tonight again. And then we recommended to the City Council on the Dominion Energy Site Plan located at 1300 North and 1200 West. And then recommended the City Council an action on the conceptual plan for the new Public Works facility. And then we voted to cancel the December 23rd Planning Commission meeting. We had our reports on assignments, and we closed the meeting. You have any questions, anybody?
Thank you.
Well done, Lyle. Thank
Great
you.
report. So appreciate you. Okay, moving on to our business items. A discussion on the Weber County Code Enforcement Services. Is Iris here? Thank you for coming. So,
Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members and Mayor-elect. So first of all, code enforcement enforces compliance with zoning ordinances. So your planning division and your planners that you have pass these ordinances and they come before you and you pass or deny them. And so what code enforcement does, we enforce those things that you've passed. And the goal of code enforcement is to get compliance. Zoning regulations or zoning ordinances help maintain property values and they protect the health and safety and welfare of our communities. And it also reflects the standards of our communities. So when you drive through a beautiful community, you're more relaxed. You think how lovely it is. Wouldn't it be nice to buy a house in this neighborhood? And that's what you want to do. And that's what code enforcement is about. It's about making sure that our communities are safe. So what's a violation? There are many types of zoning violations, and they can all be found in the ordinances and the standards which you as a city have put forward. And code enforcement does not enforce private matters like covenants or deed restrictions. Those are civil matters and they're dealt with privately. So usually what we say is, what should we do? So if there's a neighborhood issue and how can it be handled? If possible, we like the neighbors to handle it themselves, to get to know the neighbor that they feel is in violation on a friendly term and maybe come about a mutual solution. But sometimes that's not an available option for people. Sometimes people perceive that they're being targeted or picked on, and so the friendly neighborhood approach doesn't always work. So what happens is, and Weber County has been contracted by Hooper City. What we do is we say, go along to your city. If you have a complaint, make it with the city. And then it gets passed on to code enforcement for Weber County. I have one example, excuse me. I didn't realize I would be talking to everybody. So, and what happens is, this example is from Hooper, and it's a recent violation, and somebody's come into the city and made a complaint. There's a complaint form, it has the city logo, and they've gone into the city and they've said what their issue is. So then I go out, take a look, if it in fact is a violation of the city ordinances, I go to their code book, and it's Hooper City's ordinance, and look up what the problem was. In this case, it was a weed complaint. And I noticed that. Then I noticed the property owner. What I like to do is first knock on the door and have a conversation and see if I can get some compliance that way. And I send them a notice. It's a friendly notice. It just says, just going to bring this to your attention that you're in violation. This is the code that you're in violation of. And as a city, we'd like you to clean it up. And we're going to give you some time to do that. And if that's not forthcoming, then we're going to take some other measures. So it puts the person with the potential violation on notice that the city's looking at them and zoning enforcement's looking at them. And that's basically in a nutshell how we do it. With Hooper, because we're contracted with Hooper, they make the decisions on the complaints that get forwarded on to code enforcement at Weber County, and then we act on the city's complaint. And that's how we do it.
If you were to take on another city, our size, smaller, I mean, would you have the capacity to do that right now?
We do. We have 2 code enforcement officers now. And Hooper doesn't generate a lot of business. It's done they're not proactive, they're reactive. So if somebody comes to the city and say, my neighbor's got junk or a mess, or this is going on, or that's going on. So I get less, I'd probably say less than 100 calls to go out and take a look. So
In a year,
Yeah, a year.
right? Does the council have any other questions?
So on a typical, when you get something from Hooper City or whatever, what's the time frame from when you get the complaint to when it's usually resolved kind of scenario?
I usually like to go within the first couple of days that I get the complaint, if possible. And I go out, and if I can make contact with that person, I'll talk to them and say, this is what's going on. These are the violations. This is what's happening. I take photographs, and then if I'm not able to make contact with them, I've got my photographs, and then I generate a letter. By law, we have to allow them 14 days to take care of the violation. If the violation isn't taken care of in 14 days, then we can do other measures. Or if they call and say, I want to clean up, I'm so overwhelmed, I can only do a little bit. And then with the city's permission, we give a time frame. And then I look after that time frame and make sure that the violation is being cleaned up in the time frame that the city has given.
Okay, so you would come back to the city and say, hey, this is
Yep.
what the response was, and then get our input on how it needs to be
Absolutely,
addressed.
yes, because it's your city, it's your community, it's what, it's how you want to enforce it.
So I guess one question that's come up with code enforcement is, and I know when I talked to you on the phone, you said 95% of them are kind of resolved
Yes.
peacefully kind of
Yes.
scenario, but there is that 5%.
Mhm.
And I know when we've talked about code enforcement, there's a lot of people that are concerned about that 5%. So when you run into those, I mean, I know you're part of Weber County. Do you like contact the sheriff's office to go with you, or how do you kind of address those?
I typically haven't had too much of a problem. Sometimes I think it's because of my approach, my accent, something, and people are usually pretty good to work with. I have had on one occasion a gentleman that got his shotgun pointed at me, and I just looked at him, and I know what I should have done. I should have immediately called the sheriffs, but I looked at him and I said, put that thing down. Didn't your mother know that you're not supposed to point it at anyone? And he did just that. So, but I did get in trouble with the sheriff for that one. But so, but Weber County sheriffs are very good. They back me up all the time. I call them, they're there immediately. And if there is a problem, like we had some white supremacists at one point a few years ago, I mean, there was like 6 or 7 deputies right there, and within minutes, it was amazing. And so I get a lot of support from them. Yeah, I feel comfortable because I know that I can call dispatch and they'll be there just like that. And hopefully I've done this job long enough that I can sense when things are starting to go south and I can back away.
Well, I mean, that's important. We want everyone to be safe. So that's why I asked that question.
But mostly people are apologetic. They've let things get out of control. They have some issues, maybe, and so we work with them. I had an elderly couple that had a ton of junk. And so we contacted the Boy Scouts. We contacted a couple of churches, different denominations, and they all came out and helped clean them up one weekend, and we got pizza, and, we've even had inmate crews clean up, and, when it's really serious, so, yeah.
So one more question. I know, and maybe I'm wrong on this. It seems like currently the way we're doing it, we get Ryan involved a lot, it seems like, with letters and other stuff. With your experience with Hooper City, you don't have to necessarily get the attorney involved because you guys handle the letters, you guys take care of all that,
Yeah.
correct?
And then if it comes to a point that they are totally ignoring us, or then we go to the attorney and say, okay, and usually we always say, I'll let you look at this, but usually it says, nothing in this notice should be seen as prohibiting the city from taking immediate action in this matter to protect public health, safety, and the general welfare. So, and it's always an option to take it further with the city attorney.
Hey, any other questions?
Yeah, I get, well, more of a comment. I really like the idea of the letter that spells it out, that documents it. And then, of course, it ties it directly to,
Yes.
the words in the ordinances. So it's like, okay, here's the complaint. Here's what you're in violation of.
Right.
Let's work something out. I just absolutely love that approach because it's just, it makes sense.
With the letter, usually with the letters, I have a couple of pictures, and the pictures wouldn't print out this time, but I have a couple of pictures of the violation so they know exactly what I'm looking at. Then I also send a copy of the ordinance always, and also the letter. And that's, that's standard. That's what.
Maybe even sometimes highlight the exact pieces that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate being here. This is something that we're very interested in the city. So we'll be discussing this, and Josh will be contacting you more. So thank you for taking your time tonight to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. I have this if you want to kind of look it over.
If you just leave that with Josh, I think that's great.
And then I know you sent a copy draft of an agreement, and I think I sent that to Ryan to review. You didn't have any questions or thoughts, right? On that? It's been a little while since I sent it to you. I can resend it to you, but I think Lou did have a question.
I just have one question. Is your charge based on the number of complaints you respond to? I mean, how do you charge the city?
It's by the hour.
Okay.
So, and usually, I don't, with Hooper, I don't usually get more than one or two. And so I'll do them when I've got, I'll do them at the same time, or, and so I know that what I like to do is do some Weber County stuff as well. So I'm only charging from the moment I leave the Weber County stuff to get to the Hooper site. And so it makes it not so expensive. I think last year in total, Hooper spent about $2,000. So.
Great. Okay.
This is good. And one of the reasons we were looking at this is if we were hired someone else and had to keep them on payroll versus here, and like Iris said, we only have to send what we want to send. So if we have things we want to take care of in-house, it doesn't force us to use them or do anything. There's no minimum or anything like that.
Because you pay based on how much service they give, not on some fixed payment, rate.
Yeah. So, no, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be in touch. And so we'll follow up on that. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome Mayor Dickamore, and we'll,
Good, keep going. You're doing well.
no, I think,
Keep up, keep going.
all right. Lieutenant Mark Orton is here happily. He's always happy to be here. He has a presentation to show us tonight on flock cameras.
Just here to kind of tell you what's going on in the county. We're looking at license plate readers. The first license plate reader that we got was in 2012. It was mounted to a Dodge Durango, and it was used for traffic enforcement. You would drive around, and if I was coming at you and you were coming at me, it would pull up all your registration information before we passed. It would tell me if the car was expired. It would tell me if it was stolen. It would tell me if it had insurance, things like that. This has evolved over the years, and now we're looking at stationary cameras that are mounted on poles, but we're looking at more of a criminal aspect on this. Ogden City got the ball rolling with this. They went with a company called Flock, and they have 10 cameras at a total of 20. They have about 12 throughout the city. They have 8 in BDO. Roy City is under contract for 13 cameras. The sheriff's office has purchased 10 cameras. Far West will be getting one of these cameras. And I think Ogden's going back to add more cameras. Plain City wanted more on top of the one they're getting, so they're purchasing some, and so is Marriott Slaterville. But what this does is we're looking at the criminal aspect now. the way Plain City has set theirs up is you won't be able to get in or out of Plain City without the license plate reader taking a picture of your license plate. We can't access this data just for gee whiz. We can't find out what Ken's daughter is doing on prom night or something like that, okay? This is strictly for, we have to have reason. Say you have an area like Remuda and you're gonna have a bunch of vehicle burgs, okay? If that car goes by a license plate reader, we can start looking at data. We can start saying, why is a car from Layton in Remuda at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay? We can also input data. So if we get a stolen vehicle, we can input that. And once it drives by a camera, we'll be immediately notified. It also works on Amber Alerts, things like that. Plain City had a black Ford Dually stolen this summer, and it was found in Ogden with a license plate reader. They tracked it as it went through the city and was able to find it in a parking lot. Ogden City had a case 2 years ago with a homicide, and they thought the suspect was heading to Wyoming. They contacted Wyoming, and Wyoming has a similar system in place. And they told Ogden, if that car enters Wyoming, we will know. And so it's great technology moving forward. There's obviously certain restrictions on it. Any data on it is deleted after 30 days, unless we flag it or tag it for evidence reasons. And like I said, we have to have a reason to look at it. So if a car gets stolen in Far West at night, the duty sergeant can immediately enter that plate in the system. And if it ends up out in Roy, it'll start pinging off cameras and won't be able to find it. But we are moving forward with it. The sheriff's office has purchased 10 of these. And like I said, Far West will be getting one for sure on 1900 North. We are having some challenges working with UDOT. And so they're not real keen on the idea, and so we're staying on city roads for now. In the future, if we looked at another one for Far West, we'd definitely consult with you guys, but we would think maybe 1800 North over here or something.
Right now, they're stationary.
It's a stationary camera. We're paying $2,500 a year for each camera, but if we want it moved, they charge us $250. So.
Mark, Plain City's getting 6, right?
We gave them one, they ordered another 6. Marriott Slaterville's looking at a couple too.
And we're getting one.
You're getting
And
one.
this council to
And the
decide.
one you're getting from the sheriff's office is,
One.
we're paying for that.
And every year you have to renew that, and it's $2,500 a
$2,500.
camera.
Mhm.
Okay.
Something like Plain City where they have not a whole lot of roads going in or out. They sat down and was able to cover their whole city with a total of 5 or 6 cameras. So.
Really, you just need all the entrance exit roads, right?
Yeah, it's sticking to the main roads. And the stuff that I have now, it doesn't necessarily have to capture the license plate. We can put in a description, we can put in red Ford truck, and it'll find all the red Ford trucks that went by that. The technology's out there. Tow companies are using this for repossessions. They'll enter the plates in there and then they drive around and it'll ping. I've heard Starbucks are even using it. So when Ken pulls up, it recognizes his plate, know what his favorite coffee is, and has it ready for him when he pulls up to the first window.
In
Nice.
theory, though, if Plain City's putting them, anything leaving that direction into Plain City would be covered, correct?
Yeah.
So we just need to talk Pleasant View and the other cities to get us
Yeah.
surrounded.
Partially covered.
The reason I'm here tonight is Plain City was looking at a different system, and I asked them, please wait. Don't sign anything yet, because our goal right now is we would like to get everybody on the same system if they decide to go that route. It's easier for all of the cities to sign MOUs where we can have access to everybody's information. It's all one system. It's a lot easier. Plain City agreed, and they jumped on with the same system that everybody else is going with. So down the road, if you consider something like that, please consult. So we'd like everybody on the same page.
How many's Roy getting?
Roy's they're contracting for 13 cameras right now. Ogden has a total of 20, and theirs are in place. And I think they're looking at getting more.
Do you know if any, like Box Elder, that side is doing it?
I haven't heard outside the county. I thought it was pretty impressive that Wyoming had their state.
That's cool.
5,000 a year and they got it covered. So,
There's Evanston and Cheyenne.
That's right.
but
Is this something that can take place anytime, or is it? like
yes,
better-
absolutely. And yeah, their contract, they've been really awesome to work with so far. I mean, you can cancel at any time and that sort of stuff.
Would you please get us some information on that so we could at least,
Lieutenant Colby Ryan is spearheading that for us, so I can get him in contact with you. He's doing our contracts with Flock.
Okay.
And I've even heard of, I think they gave a story of a homeowners association putting a couple in because they were having some problems in the neighborhood. So this is a nice way to be proactive. Before, when somebody let their garage open and their lawnmower was gone, we really had nothing to go on. Now we might have something to look at.
Right, and you're not trying to get all of the ring cameras all together.
And see that the ring camera gives you a great picture of the side of the car, but not the license plate. Yeah.
Picture of a fuzzy picture is.
Yeah. Yeah, they're bagging some now. These Flock cameras will catch the license plates on cars at 120 miles an hour.
we appreciate you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, I better slow down.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Go ahead, Boyd.
Approval of a conditional use permit for the construction business in a C2 commercial zone for accent painting. Matt, are you here? Matt, okay. Are you representing the company? Okay, come up and tell us your name for the record and tell us, I'm sure we have a few questions, but tell us a little bit of what you're doing. So,
Hey, so my name's Casey Lindy. I'm actually the regional manager for Ogden and we're all around here.
Okay.
So what we're planning on doing is building 3 steel buildings and we'd cut them in half. So it'd be 6 units altogether. And, we're gonna rent one out and then rent all the other ones out too. So that's kind of our plan.
okay. And one of those is going to accent painting. is it?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
okay.
So the conditional use is just for accent painting,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Well, we're gonna be renting out the, other units, but it'll be similar, construction companies, like a
We
paint
don't know what
company.
their use will be yet though, right? So we don't know what their,
No, the other units, we don't.
tell us about the paint side of it. What, it says no hazardous materials, that kind of thing. So what's it's mixing? Is it,
So it's more or less where we store all our equipment, our pumps, ladders, scaffold, things of that nature. And we also use it as an office where we do,
you're a painting company that goes out and you're a contractor. So it's not like this is a retail paint store.
no.
Okay.
Is it your intent that all 6 of these are gonna be contract companies?
Yeah, generally,
And so you're asking for this conditional use for the whole site, not,
right.
that's what wasn't sure of, is whether this is,
Is that the way the planning commission understood it as well?
Good point. I have to say personally, I focused on his conditional use permit. And I don't think you can correct me that we talked about the issue of the other 2 businesses and whether they would need their own unique conditional uses. I would advise stipulating it that way because you may not have 3 paint companies coming.
Correct.
In fact, the likelihood is you won't.
Right.
So what applies to you as a conditional use may be irrelevant for the other 2.
That's the way I understood it.
Okay.
So we'll focus on this as for accent paint.
Okay.
And which one of the buildings would be yours? North, south, or middle?
Probably the south.
And that's,
closest to the medical center.
Yeah.
does the council have any other questions?
So would it be the whole building or just half of one of those buildings?
Maybe half of the building. We're planning on just building one at a time. too,
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I heard that you were even thinking about maybe even subdividing the
Yeah.
property and
Yes.
going at it that way. So that's why I started worrying about, we don't want to give a conditional use for the whole property
Right.
and then start chopping it up, and then we have a conditional use for others that don't have your integrity.
Right. I
You know,
see.
but they're like, I can do what I want to because it's on here.
Right.
And we wouldn't, yeah.
So to be specific, then it would be a conditional use for access painting.
And I think when the address is known in the suite or whatever, it's designated as that location.
Right.
How does the
And is
council
that-
feel?
Ryan, looks like he wants to pipe in.
Well, I do. I have a couple of questions. Number one is, what exactly is this conditional use seeking? Is it for the structure? If it's for the structure, then it needs to be the whole structure. So, I mean, I just, glanced through the application, but I didn't pick up exactly what conditions were being imposed or what was being asked for. Just second comment, we've, for some issues that we're going through currently, a conditional use permit should be
Very specific.
associated with a particular address, not a part of the building, it needs to be with whatever that.
The site,
Yeah, whatever the site is. So,
or a portion of the site, the address of that. Okay.
yeah, there's different separable property descriptions. So anyway, my question is, what is the conditional use here? What is the conditions?
That's what we'll have to put on here is what the conditions are, but what they're asking for is for a construction business. That's the words in the list of conditional uses they can ask for in the C2 zone.
We're getting, the conditional use is to allow that business in that zone.
So it's not the business, not the building.
Correct.
Full board.
Okay. I think with, or just a comment with that, I think as we do that, just to be specific, that if we do this conditional use, that we say that it needs a building in that area, and it's not just a open junk site, you know what I mean, just where construction things are parked. So I think there's some things that we need to, so.
You guys have the picture of the.
Yes, it looks, we like that. It looks very nice. That's a.
Yes, yeah, those are helpful. Thank you. But for us to do this, so a condition I would like to put on this, and maybe this starts.
Is this start a motion?
So this is the beginning of a motion.
Okay.
So within this, if we approve this, I'd like to stipulate that it is for just the south building and that complex.
Yes.
Okay, and that it is also conditional on the actual site plan being approved. So you don't really have the conditional use until you do have the actual building. And that's its own process you'll have to come through, in order to get the site plan approved. So, so those are the conditions I'd like to put on there, that it is for the one building and that it's after the site plan approval.
Okay.
Condition on that. Is that agreeable to you?
Yes.
And so I move to approve it based on those conditions.
I'll second.
So a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome to Far West. Okay, all right. Okay, are you ready to take over yet, Mayor?
Go ahead.
He's kind of liking this.
Approval of the conditional use permit for a construction business. Let's see, that's something we already done. Sorry, approval of ordinance number 2021-14, amending accessory structure setbacks in Far West City Municipal Code. Lou, do you mind standing up there? Because it sounds like you were the one that did this or worked on this.
This was actually prompted by a concern expressed by a citizen in Far West, which incidentally I've heard expressed multiple times in the past. It's usually a setting where you've got somebody in an R115 and they suddenly discover that their neighbor can put a 20-foot tall building within 4 feet of their property line. And that's exactly what the code allows right now. According to the code in R115, they can have a building up to the height of 20 feet and the stated setback now is 4 feet. We reviewed the code. We thought that there could be a change made in that. And then we also saw what we thought was an oversight in the code. For some reason, the code has a setback for the primary dwelling of 30 feet from the city street, but only 20 feet for an accessory building. That seemed very odd and inappropriate to us, that you have to put the primary building farther away from the street than an accessory building. So one of the changes we did is simply make those two consistent so that the accessory building cannot get any closer to the street than the primary dwelling itself. The other change was to have a graded setback that starts at 4 feet for an accessory building that's 14 feet tall, but every additional foot in height that building has, that setback has to be placed 1 foot farther from the property line. So as an example, a 20-foot building would then be 10 feet from the property line rather than 4. And that's the rationale for it. We felt that was a better approach to consider both people on side of the fence, not only the person that wants to construct the building, but the person that didn't anticipate a 20-foot tall building. And the rationale is, if you want to build a bigger building, you move it farther away from the property line.
And this doesn't apply to the larger.
It doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to, and those are on 1 acre lots, and you kind of got a different set of conditions going on. The main concern has been in the R115 residential zone.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it's just a proportion.
It's just a
Yeah,
proportion.
1 foot
Yep.
and it
So if
says,
you want to put a 20-foot building, you've got to back off farther from the property line or anything over 14.
okay, and then just again, all residential zones, not A1, not,
It's in all the zones, but the real issue seems to be focused on, the complaints have come with people.
are we causing problems in the A1, A1Rs with this?
I've never seen anybody in an A1 ever come in, and because we're dealing with larger lots. It's almost invariably been in subdivisions, R115 subdivisions.
Will we hold them to that if they're higher in an A1?
That's important. They can't go above 20 feet in an R115.
Right, but let's just say in an A1, they do that now, where
could
they
go to
still,
25 feet, so that gives them
so
5.
do they still have to
back.
proportionately?
Yes.
If you look at it, it's basically you add a foot for every additional height.
No matter what zone?
Right.
Okay.
We thought that was a reasonable approach. Somebody in an,
I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
this agricultural thing now.
right, but somebody in an A1 has got a lot of area. It's a matter of, it's convenient for the property owner to put it as close to the edge of the fence as possible. We're trying to be sensitive to people on both sides of the fence. Somebody in A1 has a lot of area to put that building in. So we're saying,
And basically, we're only talking, so at 25 foot, we're only talking 9 feet.
oh, we're not,
11,
no, it's
9.
just,
No, 11 feet.
It would wind up at 15 feet. I believe.
you got to
4 feet
understand,
plus-
if this situation becomes really critical, if it's a south-facing exposure and somebody puts a 20-foot wall on the south side of your property, it's not just visual obstruction, it changes the microclimate and snow piling up and everything else. So it's been something we've heard expressed long enough, and I promised the citizen that we would sit down and reevaluate the code, and this is what we came up with.
It's good work.
Okay?
Okay, how does the council feel?
I know they put a lot of time and effort. It makes sense to me. I know that this is a hot topic with a lot of people, especially with these bigger facilities going in. So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-14, amending the accessory structure setbacks.
I'll second that.
Motion
call.
and a second. Any other discussion?
Roll call.
Josh?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Boyd, aye. Motion carries. Thank you
going.
for your work. Okay, approval of a site plan for Dominion Energy located at 1300 North, 1200 West. Is there anybody from Dominion? Okay, welcome.
Thanks for having us. I'm Zach Hansen. I'm the project engineer.
And I'm Kevin Mulvey. I'm the property agent on this project.
And just a brief overview of what we're doing. We currently have a station on 1200 West that's a little further north. Due to some issues at that site that needed to be improved. We're relocating a little further south to this new location so we can improve the infrastructure, get away a little further away from homes, and
Moving that.
we're
We'll abandon that.
abandoning that site and putting in this new station so that we can continue to provide gas service to the city of Far West in that area.
We have multiple, I'd say we have what, at least 3 or 4 of these in Far West right now?
Yeah, at least. There's one right out here. There's one out north, and there's this one. I'm not sure where.
2, at least 3 that I'm aware of, so.
Yeah, at least of similar size, we have about that many. That's correct.
All right, does council have any questions?
I'm imagining that the aesthetics are going to be very similar.
Yes, in fact, the one that's across the street here is very similar in style to what we'll be installing.
Slightly different shape because of the shape of the property.
Correct. Yep.
And I was in the meeting and they discussed plenty about the landscaping and rock and all that. So.
And that was one of the conditions that was brought up by Jones and Associates was the landscaping. Currently, our landscape plan is to develop that whole park strip with decorative rock so that it's maintained and easy to keep the aesthetics up. We discussed with the planning commission as far as the perimeter of our fence line, what that will look like. And that will be determined once we take ownership of that property. Currently, it's not been planned or allotted to do anything in addition to what is within that fence line and in the park strip.
Okay. There is an extra portion of property that's still kind of an easement
Correct.
for
And
multiple different reasons, gas lines, access maybe.
yeah, and that will be determined once certain issues are resolved and we can take ownership. But we will maintain the full site, whatever we end up doing, we will maintain the whole property. So there's not weed growth or anything to that nature.
Yeah, well, we might wind up with a code enforcement officer and
I was gonna
From
say,
Weaver County.
we already learned that
and apparently she's not afraid of shotguns.
Yeah.
she can come knock on our door.
So, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion.
From what I've seen and what I've heard through all the meetings, I'd like to move to approve the site plan for Dominion Energy located at 1300 North, 1200 West.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Mayor, council.
Okay, approval of the conceptual plan for the new public works facility. Josh, you go in charge of this one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I think you guys have all seen the conceptual plan. I know the planning commission, see over there hiding behind the thing, met last week. You guys, I don't think you guys had any comments or anything, did you? So one thing that so a couple things with this and something that was come up today as well is this has actually been in the works for a few years now, developing this site and moving forward. Part of it is getting the city in compliance with state, federal, whatever regulations to make sure that a lot of our public work facilities are up to date. So this has been up to date. Part of the reason this has been moving forward though is because of some grant money that we received. And I think all of you guys got an email today concerning that grant money and what it can and can't be used for. I do want to make sure, and I think it's important that we verify that what we are doing with that grant money is correct. At the same time, I feel like this conceptual plan and what we're doing here doesn't necessarily mitigate what we want to do going forward. So I guess my motion would be unless there's other comments or questions on this before I make a motion, but my motion would be to accept this conceptual site plan, but at the same time, the stipulation is before anything goes forward that we work out the grant money and make sure that it is correct and can be used.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I think it's a nice conceptual plan. Of course, the details and how and when we'll build it will come out. But I do believe it's very important in the phase one, it's mostly the bays, right?
Correct.
That we do need to do. Good first start.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. And so with the discussion, all in favor? There we go.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Okay, we approve the conceptual plan. Okay, thank you. Great work on that. Set a public hearing to consider the request to vacate a public utility easement for Troy Galloway at 2821 West, 3375 North. We can set that public hearing. Is Troy here any chance or? Okay.
I think we can go ahead and set that public hearing. That is a motion to set the public hearing for December 2nd.
I'll second.
Okay. Second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it set another public hearing to consider the request to vacate the public utility easement for Sid Smith located at 2493 West, 2850 North. Now Sid is here. Do we want him to speak to that at all or? Okay.
Come on up if you would, please.
Welcome. Tell us what you're doing.
I'm looking to build a small accessory building on the northeast corner of my property. It'll be a 24 by 24. Our house is relatively small. We needed a little bit more storage space just to store a few things. Nothing big. It'll be 14 foot at the peak, I think. So a little bit
You
on the
don't have to
smaller
worry
side.
about this new ordinance
No,
then.
I
huh?
was
Did you
a
do
little
that on
nervous when I
purpose?
sat down and saw that we were changing the ordinances. So I didn't know if I was changing my plans too.
Amazing how it happens to be 14 feet. Huh?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Sid?
No, I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing for December 2nd to consider the request to vacate the public easement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion is second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Sid. We'll have that public hearing. Okay, consent items. Motion to approve the minutes of November 4th, 2021.
So moved.
And November 15th.
And
Oh,
November
November
15th.
15th. Sorry, I missed that one. as
And
well.
moved again.
I'll second for both of them.
15th for those that were wondering, it was the canvas meeting to canvas the election. So, okay, motion and a second. Yeah, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, none opposed, unanimous. Okay, motion to approve. We got ditched and I had to conduct a meeting I wasn't prepared for. So that's why we're laughing. So anyway, motion to approve the bills dated November 17th. 16th, thank you. But I was just reading what was on the paper. So. I'm reading off the wrong
I
one.
make a motion to approve the bills dated November 16th.
Okay,
Second.
motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it was unanimous. I voted aye as well. Smith Family Park update. We did not have a park meeting this week, but is there any, I don't know if there's anything that,
Well, we did a couple I think we had one in between meetings. Did we have a meeting before the last one? Did we? Anyway, we did discuss that. So there's a couple of things. We did have a meeting with basically a review of the Triangle Playground with Vern, on parts and all that. And we did find it basically pointed out all the parts that are still either en route or being ordered. And apparently at least one thing might already be here, but they weren't sure if it had been signed for. I forwarded that email to the staff. Hopefully we'll follow up with that. And there are still 8 benches that are due to us, and they'll install them once we decide where we want them, once they get them. But I'm going to say they're probably on a ship or a truck somewhere right now.
and just publicly for those of anyone out there that wants to donate a bench, put your name on those benches. We would be glad to as a city, take that donation. It helps on grants. It helps the city. It's just whatever you want to do anonymously or as a family or in the name of someone that can be done.
It's a tremendous help in getting the grant awards when there's participation other than just tax dollars. It helps a lot.
So just
500.
500 for a
500
bench.
per bench. Okay.
So just a couple questions on the park. I know we went out there as a family, saw the new Triangle Park there. I'm hoping that we'll put some benches at that location because right now there's nothing to sit on around that area.
Right. Those are the 8 benches that are en route for that area.
And then I noticed that there's still missing pieces and some pieces that aren't correct out there. Are they still in the works of fixing
Yes,
that?
those are the ones I was just talking about.
Okay.
The missing pieces. They're also going to give us some extra, those clevises. They're going to give us some extra parts. So just in case they come loose.
Now,
And they've gone out in there and they've torqued them down so they shouldn't come loose. They put Loctite on them.
so you saw in the missing, there's some that have pieces in there that are incorrect. So you got
Yes.
those noted.
Yes, there are 2 panels that are backwards,
I wanna
one
make
missing
sure.
handle. We're getting extra clevises and 8 benches. So, yes.
Good work.
I was inspecting it all.
You did good.
so.
You did
Yes.
good, you did.
And that's what we met about, and that's what they're promising to get us. And, I can either talk about the rest in my assignments. I'll just do that.
When we talk about the other parks and what we met on, is that what you mean?
Well, okay, we also, we are gonna meet as a park committee on the 8th. We did put out, or we did request from another playground equipment company, Big T, to give it, we got concepts from one company, and now we want to get some ideas from another one, and then look at them all and sort out what we actually want. We've decided, basically, the committee has to focus on Mountain View Park now. It seems to be the one that needs the most attention, gets used quite a bit. So that's going to be our next focus. We have concepts and ideas for pretty much all of park playgrounds that we have, but we have to prioritize because we can't do them all at once. So we're going to be meeting again and going over all that kind of stuff. So.
Thank you, Ken. All right, we're on to council assignments. So Josh, well, let's just start with Ken and go.
I'll just keep.
Just
I'll
keep going.
Okay, I'm pretty much good. That was a lot of my assignments having to do with those kinds of things because they have to do with grants and playgrounds and all that. Another thing, it's kind of Smith Family Park related, but also kind of my thing is, so I met with Dan Wright from Rocky Mountain Masonry on the Veteran Plaza out there at the park. We have 63 bricks that we want to look to install. We had a brainstorming session yesterday out there. Nate was there, Bubba was there, Dan was there, his son was there. And we looked at it real carefully, and we kind of came up with, our first attack is we're gonna replace blank bricks within the star. We're a little worried about that. So there's one that has to be replaced. So they're gonna replace that one first to see how well these bricks will come out, because we don't want to damage anything that's in it already. And the mortar that they put in, or the sand that they put in, works really, really well. And we don't, and Dan was like, we got to be very careful about this because they're not going to come out very easily. So we decided, well, what if there another way we can honor the veterans and whatnot? And we talked about a couple of concepts like, can we build some benches out of these bricks? Can we build some walls? And right now we're leaning towards, so behind the flagpole, there's kind of an arc, and we can actually mount them to that and put a new cap on it. And what that does is we can put those bricks behind there. So the veterans will, you'll be able to see them right there with the flag and all that. But it also gives us room to expand if we get more over time. So, because I swear every time we're out there and we have a brick in hand, somebody comes up. In fact, when we were out there, somebody came up and they were like, I want to get one for my grandfather too. So, that happens a lot. So that'll give us the opportunity to do that. So first of all, they're gonna replace a broken glass block, because apparently we have some little turds that like to break glass block because with the rocks that we have out there. And then they're gonna do that one, and then we're gonna see how well that works. We also, Mike Dickamore, I think he's related to Lee a little bit, sort of.
He spells his name wrong, but he's related,
Oh, he
yes.
spells it right.
Does he?
Yeah, he
Okay.
does.
Anyway, he's been engraving these bricks for us, and he does have some, because we want to be able to have some blanks to fill in where we don't have, where we need to. He has some spares, he has a source, and Dan's happy about that. So that way we can build this wall with the right kinds of bricks and the right colors and all that kind of stuff. And they're both enthusiastic about this. They're all very much into veterans. So in fact, they tell me how much of an honor it is to even be a part of it. So pretty cool. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Josh?
Question on the park stuff, you sent out an email regarding the changes to that ordinance for the hours?
Oh, yes. Just a proposal of getting it started, that we want to basically change the ordinance in order to allow.
Lighted areas.
Right now, the ordinance says half hour before sunup, half hour after sundown, we're closed.
So Well, I think there was one wording. I think we had exceptions and then you made a new category, so I don't know if it should be just under the exceptions. But do we post those lighted hours?
We'll need to.
Part of the question is maybe do we just change the ordinance to say unless it posted otherwise at lighted areas? And that way we can, if we need to change things, we're not always changing the ordinance. If there's a certain event that's lighted to this long and others that are, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because if it is posted saying, hey, on the, courts or whatever it is, these are the hours, then I think that might be an easier way and just put that in the ordinance as an exception.
That's fine. Because I just wanted to help start the conversation with it. So.
Give it to
Yes.
Lou.
I
Oh.
wasn't paying attention. What did you all say?
We'll tell you later.
We'll tell you.
Okay, I do have one last sort of assignment. It's not really an assignment. It's actually a vacation of an assignment. So, I'm writing a formal letter, basically of resignation, from my current position effective noon on January 3rd. I've discussed this with Lindsay and Ryan. The timing of it is important so that, we're able to advertise to fill my vacancy, but also have a full quorum for nights like this. I wouldn't want to, desert the whole thing. And I'll be submitting this letter to you all and to Ryan. So that's when it'll become effective. And I thank you all for being able to serve where I am. And I thank Lee for his service, for everything he has done for us.
Well, thank you. Let's move on, Boyd.
Josh.
I had a meeting with both Dave and Robbie last week. We went over with Dave. I talked about a whole bunch of road projects, what he kind of foresees for next year. He's going to start putting together some pricing on that. And then we're also going to look at kind of future upcoming years. We have some bigger projects that we'll have to spread out a little bit. And so we'll be continuing to work on that. And then Robbie, just some storm drain issues. We also had our mosquito abatement meeting last week. That went well. One of the big things that they're dealing with right now is just employee retention and employee pay. So that was a big topic that we talked about, and increasing pay for full-time employees to make sure we can keep them on and we don't lose them. And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up is many citizens are aware of the pedestrian accident we had on 2700 North at 2575 West. That is a state road. UDOT does govern that, but I know a lot of citizens have reached out to UDOT, and yesterday or today, I guess it went out in the mail. The city sent an official request to UDOT to do a study on that intersection so that we can hopefully push them along a little bit to improve that and the safety there. So
Let me
just
comment on that. When I signed and sent the letter out, the lady at UDOT who's over the roads called me last night about 6 o'clock. And she said, quote unquote, "We will look at it." But the person that we talked to prior to said it's overdue. It needs to have a study. So they're back and forth. So she said she would get back with me on that. So if there's going to be a study, we've escalated the possibility of getting it done by sending that letter. So that's where it's at right now. And the lady who addressed you, she did pick up, but I left her a voicemail letting her know if she had any other issues to give me a call or the city a call.
I appreciate that. And I guess one more thing I was going to bring up, I know Bruce isn't here tonight. I was going to thank him, the veterans,
Excellent.
event that we had the other day. I think all of you guys were there. It was very excellent. Appreciated that. So that's all I have.
That's good for the public record because it was well done. We didn't have the band, but we had a small brass, 6 of them, and the simplicity of that and the sound of that was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed it probably more than I have the band, and I've enjoyed the band. So it was just very well put together. So.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Anything else, Josh? Okay. Just on mine, we've had our fire district meeting. We did have a truth and taxation meeting. We're not supposed to say hold the rate, but that's all that we're trying to do there. We're not trying to raise taxes, but the notice went out as a raise in taxes because that's how it has to be presented. So we won't know until June or July when that comes out, what we'll actually end up with. But our holding the rate would probably give us what we need to continue on. Same thing with, it's all about the wages right now. 70, 80, almost 75% of our budget is wages on that fire district. And so the starting wage is $14.38 an hour for public safety. So it just amazes me, but the same thing that the mosquito district is having, we have to work on retention of those employees. And there's agencies out there that want to be the first and the highest with pay, and we can't always compete with that. So we just have to figure out a way to budget and do things the best we can. Other than that, lots of other meetings, but things are going well in the city. So that's all I have. Mayor? You're done?
Sewer board meeting last Monday night. It started at 5 and got over at 7:30. A major issue there is we had sent several letters to the sewer board, the board of trustees, also to the long range planning committee, which I served on. And it was dealing with people hooking to the pressurized service line that we have tore up our city for. The bottom line on the deal is that is a service that they can hook to. But a study is going to be done in their master plan, Central Weaver's master plan, to look at capacities. And I've requested on there that they make sure they look at the capacity of what Far West would need in its rural areas, so that we do not have to come up with a moratorium again where we don't have sewer capacity. That is crucial, but it could change in a heartbeat. So the sewer line is open for them to be, whoever builds who would like to hook up, if they are annexed into the sewer district. Does that make sense, Ryan? And I have to appreciate Ryan. We've sit down trying every way possible to get it on the master plan and then annex in, but it went the other way. There was only 2 opposed, and the rest of the council, or I should say they call them trustees, voted in favor of letting people who are annexed into the city to hook to that line out there. So that's where it's at. So there's a lot of other things going on, but I'll entertain a motion. I'll take over, boy. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Lou, make sure you get that done now. We got you in bulk, eh? No, yeah. Hey, Lau.
You're gonna have to go to him.
Oh.